And now we're moving over to Thomas from Guardicore, and we're gonna, do you hear me, Thomas? Are you with us, Thomas?
I hear you, yes, I'm with you.
Yes, welcome, Thomas. Welcome.
Thank you very much, thank you.
You're gonna talk about mitigating ransomware with Zero Trust.
That is in fact correct. Let me just share my presentation here. Here we go. That's a little bit weird. Do you see my the starting slides?
Okay, absolutely. So Thomas, kick it away.
Thank you. All right. So I will cover a pretty broad topic here. I will try to knit together Zero Trust, microsegmentation, and ransomware, which is quite a lot of big topics on 15 minutes. But I will rush you through, and hopefully it will make sense in the end. I will also try to give you a practical example of how that could look from the real life. My name is Thomas. I'm a regional director for Guardicore in Northern Europe, based out of Copenhagen in Denmark. So time considered, let's get going with the presentation. So starting with Zero Trust, I'm sure that most, if not all of us, have heard Zero Trust once or many times throughout the last 10 years since it was introduced by Forrester in 2011 as sort of more maybe a conceptual idea, and over time it has been growing into what we want to say today is actually a real thing. We actually do see real world deployments of Zero Trust initiatives, and microsegmentation being a natural part of that is obviously makes us being involved in many cases. I still hear Zero Trust being mentioned as a buzzword. I think that's not correct. It's real. A recent Ponemon survey actually documented that around 26% of organizations have implemented Zero Trust, and a much bigger part is going in that direction. As Nick alluded to earlier, this is also supported by the White House memo, tying this very much into the ransomware situation that they have been through recently, or the world, but we have some really powerful, big, well-known examples coming from the US. And obviously, going into more the definition of Zero Trust, it's based on the notion or the assumption that everything is already compromised. So in theory, we should lock everything down and only allow for what is good and necessary. And that was, you can say, the theoretical element 11 years ago. Now we're talking the reality of actually being able to do that with the help of microsegmentations, among other things. So that's sort of the high level link between Zero Trust and microsegmentation. Again, also Gartner is pitching in terms of tying the Zero Trust concept into together with microsegmentation. So just a few third-party trustworthy statements to support the idea of and the relevance of talking about Zero Trust, microsegmentation, and ransomware in one sentence. So this is the 5 steps to Zero Trust architecture by Forrester, and you will with the things that already have been explained by my colleagues and Mario, you will see that there's a natural link between microsegmenting and those 5 steps. I won't go into detail, time won't allow that, but every single one of the steps, as you will see in a few minutes, is mapping to what microsegmentation can enable and provide. So it's everything from understanding and mapping towards where your data is, since the data is residing, to embracing automation and orchestration to support that otherwise labor intensive initiative. a little bit about microsegmentation and Guardicore specifically. I don't want to repeat or risk repeating what Mario already have said, but I do want to say that just give a very brief introduction to the element of how we do enforcement, because that really plays into the idea or the concept of preventing ransomware attacks. So as you know, we deploy agents, small, lightweight firewalls in principle, and that will provide us with the continuous visibility, as Mario said. I like that word. That will give us the ability to map and identify and down the line apply controls to do preventative measures in terms of, for example, a ransomware attack. And we are really talking about the prevention of lateral movements, right? So that's the preventative side of things, and that will be based on whitelisting principles. So whitelisting is very much in line with the zero trust concept framework, because it does by nature only allow what we know is good and allowed. All depending, obviously, of what it is that we are looking at and the criticality of the asset, the specific application process, or if it's more on an environment basis. So we can apply whitelist controls to make sure that only what we know is good and necessary will be allowed. And obviously, the continuous visibility plays a huge role in that. And providing the business level context is evenly important. But we also enable blacklisting. And blacklisting is a very convenient thing to be able to do when and if you get hit by something, for example, a ransomware attack. So looking at how we map into the Forrester 5 steps to ransomware, 5 steps to zero trust. Sorry, we can apply these functionalities or capabilities to the flow, and it very intuitively links to the zero trust framework. And I don't want to go into detail about these things, but definitely there's a focus on being able to identify and see where sensitive data, sensitive systems is located, and the ability to see it in a business context. And preventing by whitelisting is only allowing what is actually necessary and good, and then being able to monitor that on a continuous basis by integrating with SIEM solutions, for example, and also having an open API to embrace the other systems in the ecosystem is a huge benefit. So we have a natural, intuitive link to each of the 5 steps as an enabler of the zero trust framework. Moving a little bit further on, let's go to the real world. This is conceptually, and I hope it made sense. So let's take a real life example. I just put in the definition of ransomware if that was not known by anyone, considering this is the sort of the business track. But I would really want to highlight the second paragraph stating that lateral movement is critical to the success of an attack. If it's only on my computer, it's less harmful than if we allow it to spread around the infrastructure, the environment, the data center. It can have crucial implications, as we have seen in the recent months and years. So this is really what I would like to put the focus on. And the real life example that I have is actually a company that was not a customer of Guardicore. They didn't have microsegmentation, and they didn't base their strategy on a zero trust basis. So you could say that this is a very complicated and potentially difficult situation to navigate in. But what we did obviously is that we'll deploy our agents, and we will start seeing the traffic coming in. And this is basically within, let's say, hours. Probably it's less. But after the deployed the agents is on the workload, this is what we will see, right? We will start seeing that a lot of connections is trying to be made. The infected machines on the network are scanning the network, and they try to infect other machines. That's the nature of ransomware. And what we could see from this particular map is that it's incoming for 445 connections, which quickly was established as the infection vector. So now, obviously simplified, we have to see this in a wider view to fully understand what's going on. But this is really the core of the attack that we detected relatively quickly, and I'll come back to that, by the way. So now, if we move to the other side, so this is one of the infected machines, and it's actually trying to scan and infect other machines in the network. And you can see the same pattern, right? It's pretty intensive. But this machine is also serving the business at the same time. And that's one of the key issues, if you will, in a ransomware attack. How do we separate the good from the bad? How do we keep the business running? How do we solve this ransomware attack without disrupting the business? And this is really where microsegmentation comes in very, very, very handy, and it's a pretty powerful proposition. So this is what the machine or this server, this asset, this workload should be doing, but it's doing a lot of other things, right? So now what we want to do is that we want to prevent this from happening and still keeping the business up. And I just couldn't help putting this into the picture because, again, time doesn't allow to go through this. But this is a timeline, an average timeline of what it would take to solve this issue with traditional firewalls as the internal east-west segmentation methodology. There's a lot of steps, there's a lot of disruption to the business, and it takes a lot of time. How you do it in the microsegmentation world, on the other hand, is that you, based on blacklisting, you apply one single rule in this case. You apply one single rule that will prevent infected systems to connect with any other system on port 445 in our environment. So that's the way that we will, in this very simplified example, this is how we will address the ransomware situation. What we will do as the initial step here is that we will tag the infected system, so it's only impacting the infected systems, but we could also do it in other ways. And now we are back into a business as usual. We have normal conditions in our environment, and basically this is something that has been dealt with within a few hours, this one says, but really the reality is we're talking about probably a day's time. So this is the timeline specifically with a customer who used microsegmentation, and compared with the other example, we're now talking around 1 day and without business disruption. And in addition, if you add zero trust into the mix, where we have more extensive, if you will, zero trust controls involved, we can close that window even further in combination. So this was an example from the real life. My closing line, I can just maybe recommend you to go to look up Infection Monkey, which is a tool that will help you provide a report on you can say your post posture in a zero trust context. It's non-intrusive and all that. It's free, so you can get an idea of what's the impact of introducing zero trust in your environment. I wish I had more time to talk about that, but I don't. I want to.
You do.
Yeah, but not much though.
You have a couple of more minutes, to be honest, because they're running a little bit late on the technical track. So okay. Yeah, so you can get a couple of more minutes.
All right, but then there's not much to say right now, because now my whole preparation obviously is based on the 15 minutes. But
no worries.
But let me just say one thing about Infection Monkey. Actually, is that this is actually only talking about zero trust. What we recently did was actually we extended the ability for Infection Monkey also to address ransomware posture. So what you can really do is you can try with the tool to create certain targets that you want to address in terms of ransomware. And then what we can do is we can actually assess to what degree you can a ransomware attack would be successful targeting that particular piece of a file or folder or whatever it is. So with not only you can assess the zero trust impact, but also you can actually assess the ransomware impact that you potentially can improve by introducing microsegmentation.
Yeah, microsegmentation is of course very relevant when it comes to ransomware. Hopefully there is other protection mechanism that is blocking it before. But real life has proven that's not the case. So no. That's where we are.
And obviously, this is not the underlining, if you will, the headline of this is not that this is one single solution that solves all problems. We understand, of course, that there's no silver bullet solutions out there. We need to. It's a stack, right? It's a combined effort.
Yeah, for sure.
Between
different we have one question though, is that in general, how does Guardicore scale? Because there is a lot of it's going to become a lot of agents, especially if it also is adding the endpoints into the discussion from an architectural point of view. Then it really needs to scale. How do you respond to that question?
So you could say the agent itself is, I can't necessarily give you all the details because of lack of technical abilities, but it is a lightweight agent. I think we have an on average CPU consumption is less than 0.5% or something like that in the real world. We say it won't go beyond 2%, and you can cap it, by the way, anywhere that you prefer. So there's a mechanism to cap. But when you talk about scale in terms of amount of agents that you deploy, I mean, we have some customers that has deployed more than 100,000 agents. So
more than 100,000 agents.
Correct. So there's a very, very scalable solution, and it has a distributed architecture. So it is really well suited for also implementing into distributed environments. So scalability is what I will say is actually one of the advantages when you talk microsegmentation and Guardicore.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, now I think it's time for me to leave you, Thomas.
Yes.
And we're gonna switch to Avishai. Thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome.